Hey guys, welcome to the Canada Puck Podcast, your weekly recap of what's going on in the world of sports, specifically in hockey, and more specifically in Canada, just like the name implies. I'm your co-host, Mick. You can find me on Twitter at ProfitMick, which might be one of the most ironic names on the internet. And I'm joined every episode by a lovely and talented man that sits above me.
Grant. On Twitter at Fourth Line Sports.
I'm holding you up.
Oh, I feel like we need a tag team entrance that I can come in and just go, I don't know.
All right.
I'll work on it. My stage presence needs working on, apparently. But
Pretty good.
Good week in hockey, but it was baseball week, so I gotta say, opening day yesterday, my attention may have been directed elsewhere. I was a little bit shocked to see a couple scores last night. I was like, oh, I should have been paying attention last night.
That's fair. Are you talking about hockey or baseball specifically?
Both. Well, I was talking about hockey, but there was a couple scores in baseball that caught me off guard, too.
All right, we can pull that up. So this is your first show. Welcome. We're going to run through some headlines. We're going to look at kind of all the big topics that's going on in the rest of the divisions, then focus in on Canada, give you a little bit of fantasy advice, a little bit of gambling, disadvice. I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe we got some boobs to look at later. It's gonna be a good show, good times.
That's the best part. I really hope people take me up on those babes of the week offer, because I spent a lot of if you guys knew how much time I invested looking at beautiful women on the
my Instagram search algorithm, I don't even search anything. I just scroll through the recommendations. It's delightful. It's You get a second job for all the OnlyFans accounts I'm signing up for too. It's awful. But also
OnlyFans, Patreon, I want it all. Can I hear you do this? Can you show me this? I will pay money for that.
Yep. How many ping pong balls can you bounce in a row just with a paddle? Oh, that's not the request I normally get. Anyways, moving on to the standings. What do the standings look like? Oh, we start with the Discover Central if we scroll down. We got a big story coming out of the Discover Central this week.
Is this a cue? Because if this is a cue, I'm not picking it up.
No, I don't know. I got nothing. Which is weird. I feel like I watched a lot of hockey since we last spoke, because I definitely saw both Toronto Oilers. I watched the Leafs the other night. I watched a lot of I watched a couple other games at one point. And I had almost nothing to talk about, so I'm not sure what happened. Is this just the lull, right? Are we just at that point in the season where it's just kind of mundane? We're getting the divides of who are the good teams, who are the bad teams.
That could very well be it. I feel like we're getting into the playoffs, and that's going to be a time when people's attention starts to get peaked a little bit. But right now, yeah, you know what? I would say safely, confidently, we probably are in the lull. Just with March Madness going on, baseball's going on. The timing's a little weird this year with all the, regular other sports regularly happening, and hockey being where it is in the leagues or in their season. I'm going to say this is a lull, and I don't know if we're going to get to the heights that we saw earlier in the season until the playoffs, because it's kind of maybe right before playoffs is when people start getting excited again. Yeah,
well, it comes down to those couple, there's going to be some seeding. So if we're looking right now just to Discover Central, Nashville and Chicago are both tied for fourth place, that last spot at 39 points. Everyone else has a comfortable lead. Tampa, Florida, and Carolina all have 50, so that's a 12-point cushion. Right? A couple games in hand, it looks like. So that's kind of almost wrapped up. Just kind of that last spot.
I guess that's one thing that we could mention is how good Nashville has been playing recently. They've been on a tear. That's kind of cool. I mentioned it. I just kind of alluded to it a little while ago. I was like, I don't know. I kind of had I can't even remember which podcast it was now, but I kind of mentioned, I was like, I kind of think that, Nashville's going to make a run up the standings here. That's been exactly what's happened. Yeah. I felt like they were too good to be neck and neck with Detroit at the bottom of the division. So I think I would rather, and this is just me, my personal life or me as a person, I just like cheering for underdogs. So I'm glad Nashville made it back into the playoff picture.
I wonder if that affects the trade status of the Michael Granlunds, the Matthias Ekholms of the world. Because if you're in the postseason. Why are you selling, right? Like, they should be, in theory, trying to go for it. So maybe they're buyers, not sellers. So I wonder if that'll affect those kind of trade markets a little bit.
Yeah, and just like Chicago's been such a one-trick team. I did a dive earlier in the week, and I want to say it was something like 65% of their points came from their top line of Suter, Kane, and the Brincat.
Okay.
Like, that's a lot of, like, they basically scored like 9 straight goals for the Blackhawks. So if you can really just neutralize that one line, what's to say you can't beat the Chicago Blackhawks?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Chicago's striking a lot of fear in people's hearts. Unlike the Honda West, you want to talk about fear? You want to talk about heart? Well, you're not talking about the Honda West, that's for sure, because boo.
Yeah, what a shitty division this is. Like, Colorado and Vegas. The only thing that I'm thinking, like, we've built this up in our head to be like, this isn't like a 2-horse race, no matter what. What happens if Colorado or Vegas gets upset by St. Louis? Like, obviously, pedigree-wise, St. Louis is there. They've got the experience. They got a goalie. Like, do they catch one of these teams off guard in the playoffs? Like, is that best case scenario right now?
From an entertainment standpoint, I think from a talking point, so maybe as like a pundit to the talking head, I think a Minnesota-St. Louis second round series is awesome on paper. Live, you definitely want to see the Avs play the Knights in the second round. Like, that seems like just perfect. 8:00 starts. That's kind of what you do for the rest of the night, is you just sit back and you just get lulled into a false sense of security, and then they get you. So.
And just like entertainment wise, like if we're like Colorado, Vegas, like we know what we're gonna get. Minnesota, St. Louis, like I'm supposed to get a half chub over Minnesota and St. Louis in the second round. Like, oh god, that's not what we need.
No, but like I said, I mean, the story of them being, like winning the game 7 or something in overtime, it's kind of cool in paper. We can hear Gloria play. We all loved that song a couple years ago, so maybe we hear it again. But I don't know. I'm just going to keep scrolling down and see if something else happens. And that's my segue to the Mass Mutual East. Got some big news for you guys. It finally happened. We talked about it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks even. See this? Grant can't see it because he can't see my screen, but I've got my cursor on a 7 right now. Do you know what that 7 represents? The Buffalo Sabres wins this season. They went from 6 to 7. It finally moved, guys. We did it!
All it took was talking about it for 2 straight podcasts. They finally shook the shit monkey.
We did it.
Buffalo. I wish I knew what their goal song was and I could hum it or something. So just really build into that mood. But I don't even know if they have a goal song. I think they just quietly skate to their bench.
So at some point, Grant had to go grab his phone, and I was clicking around on the internet, and I found this fun page. Grant can't see it again. I'll just talk you through it. It says the NHL Fantasy Team Power Rankings for 2020-21. It's pretty exciting, right? And I'm like, cool. So you start your Avalanche and your Lightning, and it's how many players are in the top 20. So we've got 12, 10. If we kind of scroll down, gets to the bottom, and then you get to the 31st team, Buffalo Sabres. Same. They were the same last week. Players in the top 200 for fantasy. 0. Woo! Like, that's almost hard to do, guys. Come on.
So on the topic of the Buffalo Sabres, everybody, and by everybody I mean every news outlet that I look to, always brings up Taylor Hall as this like perfect trade bait. That guy literally loses everywhere he goes. I think, and I'm convinced because McDavid had a better year than him. He won the Hart Trophy out of pity because this is a former number one who obviously fell out of favor with the Oilers enough for them to trade him. And all of a sudden they're like, well, fuck, Taylor's had a long year. Like, let's just give it to him, even though there's like 3 players who outscored him. And, he played on New Jersey and there was another losing team that didn't do well. Let's give it to Taylor Hall. And then all of a sudden he's like this fucking magical unicorn that's just going to lead you to the promised land. Like, I don't get the hype around Taylor Hall, especially when you see like the lack of effort when things don't go his way. Like, that's not a guy who's going to win you games in the playoff, man.
No, we talked about it for a while. It's like the best way to win the lottery is you got Taylor Hall on your team. It's kind of that good luck charm. Did we do that at some point last year? Did I talk about this on the podcast where I did like my best players that like lose all the time all-stars, and I got Taylor Hall on the left wing, Matt Duchene up the middle, and then on the right wing, if you look over, there's Evander Kane too. It's those high-end guys. They've got lots of talent. I just don't know if they don't have the try-hards to get there, or they just have the bad lucks, but there's a good chance that your team's going to be pretty shitty if they're on your roster, so.
That was a fun show, actually. I enjoyed just kind of picking the best, worst players of all time.
Do I have, you know what? I've got these like scraps of paper everywhere. I might have my roster written down somewhere. I mean, because I don't throw stuff away. So, but I'm not gonna bother us with like crinkly paper sounds. Maybe next week I'll pull it out. You know, in honor of our boy Taylor Hall. Congratulations, Buffalo. Maybe you get to double-digit wins this season. You got
like that's got to be some sort of record for futility. Oh no, I remember there was like an Ottawa season like from the early 90s. I'm pretty sure they got like 8 or 9 wins.
Colorado a couple years ago, they had a pretty bad one with like Duchene and McKinnon. It was like the year after they drafted McKinnon or something, and you're like, oh, that's unfortunate. And we're not good that season. But I'm going to keep scrolling down. Scotia North, that's the last on the list. I do like how NHL.com has set it up so we can kind of scroll down, goes with the flow of the show. I appreciate you, NHL.com.
You think that there's a couple like tech nerds who just like listen? One of our 2 listeners is a tech nerd. He's like, we're going to help with the flow of this podcast.
They probably have some type of algorithm that like knows when I say www.nhl.com and it picks them up and it sends them that way. So there you go. What other websites can we go to? Amazon.com. Boom.
Could you imagine? I can't wait till we get sponsored by Amazon and there's your and mine faces. I don't even know what we would be hawking. Lady products, maybe tampons.
I could do that.
Yes. You think we could come up with a Canada Puck tampon? How many female listeners do you think we have? Over, under, half.
Yeah, I might go under on that one. Yeah, that's
playing it safe. I respect that. Yeah. I would have taken the under 2.
Yeah,
maybe we'll look at it.
Yeah, the -5 or the -5,000 under. I was like, that kind of seems like a sure thing, no? Like, it's like Tom Brady rushing yards in the Super Bowl, like half a yard. Come on. So we start at the bottom, Scotia North, work our way up. We get to the Ottawa Senators. They went 0-1 this week. They had 1 goal for and 4 goals against. What the hell?
Yeah, what gives Ottawa? They actually ruined my Sports Select ticket the other night. Who were they playing? Montreal. Was that last night? I can't remember now. Might have been last night, actually.
I think so, yeah.
I was expecting that one to go to overtime. I had a $5 Sports Select ticket, and then I looked. I think it was 4-0. They ended up losing 4-1.
Yeah, I did see. I think Matt Murray's coming off IR. He's back with the team maybe tonight or tomorrow if they play. So it looks like they're kind of getting healthy, heading in the right direction. They're going to just, I don't know. At this point, it's kind of like you read through like what each team could do at the trade deadline. Trade Ryan Dzingel, if that's your kind of big move for the rest of the season, Ottawa. Well, that's a thing, I guess. I don't know. I don't know who wants Ryan Dzingel, what Ryan Dzingel's worth. But
I just don't know. I think I saw the same article you're probably looking at, but like, oh, we got to get the Ottawa Senators and Selmo, and it's like, what do they have left? Well, what are you really going to milk out of the Ottawa Senators right now that they probably don't really need desperately?
Well, and it's weird.
Maybe Ryan Dzingel?
Yeah, like if you look at their offseason, it's kind of like they did very little, right? And they didn't bring in those pieces to sell like you see lots of clubs do, just kind of throw money around. So, yeah, they're kind of like weirdly built at this point where they don't have pieces to get rid of. They're just kind of stating the course. See what happens, Like, maybe they'll play more than 1 game next week.
Yeah, that'd be nice, you dicks.
Fucking dicks. If we move up the ladder, talk about playing more than 1 game this week. We got the Vancouver Canucks. They got COVID, so they did literally nothing since we last spoke.
COVID's a thing. Let's not diminish shutting down your team, because that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, good job, Adam Gaudette.
Who was it? Then they did. I don't think they named. So there was a staff member and then another player that they just didn't name. I don't know what's the criteria for getting named. Like, do you just get named as the first person so that we can just shame you? And then everybody was like, all right, well, we know it's not your fault. Because the same thing happened in Montreal. It was like, oh, that fucking Kotkaniemi, he got us all sick. Everybody, shame, shame, shame. If you ever get me sick, I'm shaming you on the internet. I guess is the warning I'm giving you.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I know I talked about it last podcast. Maybe that's why I was a little surprised by Montreal. We'll get to them a little bit. Their performance this week. Just how it is kicking guys' butts. So kind of when you're getting COVID and you're at the bottom of the standings and you basically need to get rolling. I just remembered something that happened with Vancouver. All right, cool. Huh. All right. It's probably not great for you. So good job, Vancouver. Way to finish 6th. You're definitely not going to be the best team in Canada like I was predicting at the beginning of the season. So that's great. But Thatcher Demko is going to be a rich man for the next 5 seasons because he signed his extension. 5 years, $5.5 million. It's either going to be the most genius move Jim Benning made or the most dumbest move Jim Benning ever made.
Wow. You know what? That's a perfect analogy for, I think, this signing. I don't know what's going to happen either, but most dumbest might be where it ends up.
Yeah.
But when you're staring between the choice of Braden Holtby, Thatcher Demko, I know who I'm throwing $25 million at.
Grant, stop talking. I was going to roll over here. I got into sports cards at some point, and I bought a bunch of hockey cards, and I got at Michael DiPietro, which is kind of like their big, highly touted prospect or something like that. So I'll be honest with you, I don't think my Michael DiPietro rookie card stock went up this week. Maybe next year.
That's one of those buy low moments, though, where you can look back and say, you know what, I remember when they signed Thatcher Demko to a 5-year, $25 million contract, and that's when I knew I needed the Michael DiPietro card.
That's a shame. Actually, when I pulled it out of the package, I really thought it was Demko, and I was pretty excited, thinking oh, this might be worth something if he takes off, and then realized it was the other guy. So silly. Anyways, on to number 5. We got the Calgary Flames. They went 1-1 this week. They had 5 goals for and 7 goals against. Cool.
I did a dive on them. What a dog shit coach Daryl Sutter is. I'm sorry, Flames fans, but their shooting percentage was already low. What they've done since Daryl Sutter has come in. If I'm running the Flames, one of the things I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at production metrics. How often or how well does my team produce, and how does that translate to output? And if I see what I see with the Calgary Flames, and that is a team that production-wise isn't the best, and output-wise is among the worst in the league, I'm not going to then go out and get a worse offensive coach. I'm not going to get somebody who's going to say, you know what, let's limit the opportunities that we create. Let's decrease the shots that we take. 7.5% of the shots they're scoring on. 7.5. The league average right now is, I think, low 9s, or I think the mean was low 9s. Mm-hmm. And you're getting a coach who is, wrecking your offensive production. Well done, Flames.
So just looking at this, let's do some quick math, right? Games played, Montreal, who the Flames are chasing, which we'll talk about in a second, have 37, so they got four games in hand. They did have a little bit of scare, so they're actually playing quite a bit of catch-up. Oh, I guess actually the Canucks, because they were so far ahead, they don't have to do as much catch-up because of COVID. Anyways, there's, 6-point cushion, 4 games in hand for the Canadians over the Flames. Is the Scotia North slowly turning into one of the those kind of big divide, these are the playoff teams, these are not the playoff teams divisions, and we're not going to have that excitement of the last kind of playoff race? It's just going to be a effort of futility, just kind of wait for the Flames and Canucks and Senators to eliminate themselves. Maybe that's what we're getting ourselves into. I don't see how Vancouver, I don't see how Ottawa, and now I probably don't see how the Flames are going to catch up. Yeah. I was looking, it was funny, because the Flames and Canucks, I think, had identical records. Maybe they still have identical records heading into, I think it was their Wednesday night game that got canceled. So obviously it probably hasn't changed, because I think the Flames are playing the Oilers tonight. So of those two teams, Calgary's definitely the team that can make a push. Will they? I don't think there's a chance in hell they do. That's what I'm getting from this conversation. Onward to the playoffs, though. We get to the Montreal Canadiens, who are back on the ice this week and showed no signs of COVID fatigue. They went 1-1, 8 goals for and only 1 goal against. So,
I was shitting on Dominic Ducharme, and like rightfully so, the guy deserved to be shat on there for a little while, but they've improved their defensive standing or their defensive metrics here over the last little while. And in addition to that, their offensive metrics are kind of thriving. So just quick run, last 3 games, the most high danger chances they have given up is 6. The other 2 were 5. And they've created 16, 11, and 17 high danger chances over those games. Similarly, scoring chances against 15, 12, and 19 compared to 41, 31, and 27. Like, that's good metrics. Maybe I didn't give Ducharme enough time to get acclimated to coaching and taking the reins, but if we're looking at this, and if we look what that translates to, they shut out the Oilers, and then Ottawa, that was a 4-1 game last night. Those are good metrics. Like, those are better than what Claude Julien had. I don't know if this is sustainable, and I haven't watched any of these games, but did Dominic Ducharme unlock something with the Canadians here?
Yeah, like they're playing a pretty good defensive brand of hockey, right? Like I watched most of the Edmonton-Montreal game this week, and they kind of just made the Oilers look like a fool. I realized it was the second night of a back-to-back, or like they had just played the night before against Toronto, but like it didn't look like the same club out there, and they kind of figured it out. And interesting. Well, I'm going to put a point and just remember, like, Montreal defense. I'm going to do something later. So, okay.
Montreal defense.
All right.
This is your cue.
All right. So Edmonton Oilers are at number 3. They went 1-1-1 this week. And we won as a result. 6 goals for, 10 goals against. A couple good affairs against the Leafs kind of last Saturday, and then they kind of had that bounce back game on Monday. Pretty close, down to the wire. A couple fun overtime games, and then they got their butts whooped by the Canadians. So,
yeah, that was a piss poor effort. It was brought to my attention, I guess, kind of like I mentioned, I didn't watch the game. It was brought to my attention that McDavid was running around with his elbows flying, taking off people's heads and that sort of thing. Do you know, was he super frustrated in that game? Did something happen to lead to this elbow getting up, or?
Was it the Saturday night game? Biekska. Why do I even try? Thug Nasty was mentioning just how he's been kind of more frustrated in the past, and I think when he went off the ice at the end of the second period in the Saturday night game from last week, he was kind of chirping at the refs a little bit, just because he does get beat up, he gets thrown around a little bit, and they just kind of do nothing. They just kind of like shrug, kind of give him that look. So I think it might just be a culmination of like a season, weeks and weeks of frustration that he's feeling, right, where he's not getting these calls. It just seems like for whatever reason they're kind of putting their whistles away with him just a little bit more than the other guys, and I think eventually that gets frustrating, right, when you can't get out there and play your game and guys are shutting you down physically. So I think it was that moment, one shining moment.
I hope in the future we get like a Carlos Zambrano McDavid. I don't know if you guys remember, any of our podcast listeners follow baseball closely enough to know Carlos Zambrano was a pitcher for the Cubs, years ago. And I just like, my most vivid, guy would get heated all the time. Most vivid memory was he got struck out, I think it was a strikeout, and he just turned around and broke his bat over his knee. It's like, fuck, like, that's a thick bat that you just wrecked on your knee. So I'm hoping, my goal is that we get Connor McDavid angry, where he breaks his stick over his leg. Like, kind of like Nathan McKinnon. Oh, we should have talked about this in the Cent or the West. Did you see that? The helmet throwing incident with McKinnon?
Yeah.
Like, fuck, take your lunch, bud.
Yeah.
Like, just throw whips at a guy. I want that with McDavid, only stick over the knee.
Sweet. Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, I think a passionate McDavid at this point is probably not a bad thing, right? Then I mean, okay, we shouldn't encourage bad hits and hits to the head, right? Player safety, but come on, he's the best player in the NHL. You got to protect him, NHL. What are you doing? What are you doing? Great brand of hockey, though. Those 2 Leafs Oilers, I really hope we're kind of headed there. The trajectory, so I kind of hope it kind of levels out, that we do get this series, because a best of 7 Leafs Oilers, that is like some high quality hockey right there. So must see TV.
that's kind of like, that would be perfectly analogous to our year, and that is we have spent the entire year just capitalizing on this NHL North Division because this is what we've talked about for the last 5 years. For those of you who are new listeners, Mick is a Leafs fan. I'm an Oilers fan. Like, this is the culmination we deserve after, struggling to talk about the Ottawa Senators for the last 5 years. The universe could at least give us this, where we, for an entire series, for a chance to move on to the league semifinals, get to talk about the Leafs and the Oilers playing off against each other for the right to represent the NHL North. Like, come on, universe.
Woo! Tyler Ennis was waived. And again, lots of these moves are just, I think, because of taxi squads and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily mean like too much. Wasn't claimed. Was the name Shane Ghost Bear? Was on waivers too this week, and there was kind of speculation that maybe someone's going to grab him up. He must be playing really bad hockey for him to kind of clear waivers for the Flyers. But I definitely heard the Oilers were one of those teams that were potentially looking at a defenseman, but they didn't grab him. So
That's curious. I had no idea that Ghost Bear was available on waivers. I'm assuming it just boils down to a cap hit because the Oilers, like most teams, are just right up against it.
I think so.
But Tyler Ennis, who was the other guy? James Neal's gone up and down a few times, and I think it just has to do with bringing people in, getting people, playing time. And if you're going to lose James Neal, $5 million, almost $6 million contract,
that's how I play in the video game. If I have a bad deal, I just kind of send them through waivers enough till someone finally claims it, and I'm like, gotcha. No, Edmonton, like I was doing something before. Edmonton offense? Again, I'm doing something here, people. Number 2 on our list is the Winnipeg Jets. They went 1-2 this week, 8 goals for and 8 goals against. They were perfectly even. Anything cool happened with Winnipeg this week?
They lost one to the Flames, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Was that it?
Yeah.
Connor Hellebuck's been playing good. I guess that's kind of noteworthy. It's crazy to me that this guy just steps up like game after game after game and gives these guys a puncher's chance. I hope that Connor Hellebuck ends up in the Hart conversation this year because he is that good and that important. Like when we talk about most valuable player to their team, nobody tests that more than 1, Connor McDavid, but 2, Connor Hellebuck. He is like hugely valuable to the Jets, and I don't think he gets enough recognition.
No, not at all. And again, maybe I'm doing a thing. Winnipeg goaltending? And then that leads us to the top of the list. The Toronto Maple Leafs, we already talked about them a little bit. They went 2-0-1 this week. Got a lot of points. You gotta love to see that. 9 goals for, 7 goals against. Again, those overtime classics against the Oilers. Beat up the Jets. What more could you ask for?
Not goaltending, I'll tell you that much. Soup has been a man. He's been on a tear. And again, this is one of those teams I took a closer look at earlier this week. Maybe it was 2 nights ago, something like that. But Toronto was kind of not down and out, but they had played so well. Their PDO was like over 1 for, I want to say, like 10 of 11 games or something crazy like that. Then they kind of swooped in, hit that little bottom out period, and now they're back on the upswing. Timing-wise for the playoffs, we'll see how it goes, because we're just about a little over a month away from the playoffs. You don't want to peak right before the playoffs and then, hit that lull for an important series. But from an advanced perspective, Toronto remains one of the best teams in the league. And I think as far as, and I've talked about it before, the Maple Leafs have embraced analytics, and I hope that they have a strategy in play here where it's going to help them ride those ebbs and flows of the NHL season at the start of the playoffs so that they can hit that high. But they're definitely on the upswing, trending up right now.
Yeah, say they hold on.
Coming back.
Balance, I was going to say. So what I was doing there was I would say Montreal's playing is probably the best defensive team in this division. Edmonton, the best offensive. Winnipeg has the best goaltending. Toronto has the best balance. So as you move up the board, I think you can kind of simplify literally those teams into those four words, right? So,
yeah, you know what? That's I see what you're going for now, and I respect that. Toronto does have balance, and especially when it comes to scoring, like when you look at the top 2 lines that are equally as productive, And then you work down, and then you still get production out of 3 and 4.
Yeah. The one thing we were talking about a little bit is they've got something like 2 shorthanded goals, and they're like 0 for 21 on the power play over the last whatever stretch of games. These guys are kind of picking that information from. And watch a Leafs game. It kind of almost seems like every person on this team is, I don't know if they're just trying to be altruistic or they're not pulling the trigger, but you almost do need someone to do kind of an alpha male performance and take over and say, this is my team, this is my power play, I'm going to be the guy that runs with it, because they have far too many times where they look cute and they pass the puck around looking for that perfect shot, so they're kind of trying to go for that like perfect quality rather than just like a quantity of shots, right, and see if they can get kind of dirty in front of the net and make something happen. And I think that pretty much, I've been talking about that since the start of the season. Watching their power play is frustrating because these guys hold on, and they're just waiting for that perfect moment. They want the highlight kind of one-timer. And I think at this point, they just kind of start peppering the net. And I think that'll kind of change things around. So hopefully, if they can figure out their power play, that sky's the limit.
Yeah. I don't know why power play is one of those things where I think, and it's probably how it's coached, is that it's about opening up those lanes, and it's just like pass after pass after pass after pass. And then I think the funniest thing is when you hear people say, like, shoot, and then all of a sudden they shoot, and they're like, oh yeah, and then it turns into a goal. They're like, see, they should have shot earlier. Some of that needed to be set up. I don't know specifically what's going on with Toronto. I haven't watched enough of their games, but I trust your analysis on this. And missing opportunities, especially with open lanes and open sight lines, like don't pass that up, Maple Leafs forwards or defensemen. Like, you're better than that. Yeah,
and like I said, just need that one guy to get hot, and we need John Tavares to stop hitting the frickin' post. Like, it was an issue in the Columbus series all the way back to the kind of the pre-bubble. He must have missed empty nets, hit the post. He had 2 or 3 against the Oilers, kind of back-to-back games there. So I think Tavares just got to get over the yips, maybe take over the power play. Maybe he's that alpha male that just needs to come in and say, guys, this is mine, I'm going. And that might clarify. So eyes on you, John Tavares. As I look at you here, you didn't know we were getting John Tavares on the podcast, but he showed up. Oh.
Is that our first guest pick? We have a guest.
Man, look how screeny that is. Oh man. I can't wear the
quiet.
He's a quiet guy. He's reserved. Again, you need to get that alpha male out of there and come on, be aggressive. I said be aggressive. Anyways, moving on to that kind of wraps up headlines. That's gonna keep you up to date with what's going on in the last week. As we segue, and I'm talking to obviously, these beers go to my head, eh? Like, you ever watch a man get drunk on a podcast or off one drink? I do it.
It's a light beer, too.
Yeah,
come on.
It's like, no, it's this, what's it called? Budweiser Prohibition? 0% calories, so I'm pretty good.
Don't worry, guys. I've been working out, and I've been paying attention to my caloric intake.
Yeah, we're good, guys. It's non-alcoholic beer, so I get more drunk, see? Gotta be smart sometimes. On to My Dirty Fantasy, which is the next segment where we try and give you fantasy advice. We used to run pools, and they didn't really go anywhere, and they were a thing, and they just cost us money. So now we play FanDuel. How'd you do last week? I did pretty well. I have my standings up here. I got 3rd place. I had 140 points, and if we look at my entry, I believe I owe a lot to that to Connor McDavid went off. Austin Matthews was obviously worth it, and Leon Draisaitl had 31, and 19 points respectively. Aaron Ekblad did all right for me, and the fact I had a winning goalie, that gave me a win.
You know what? When I see you clicking around, I'm like, man, he must be looking at something on his screen. I just realized there's a history button where I can actually look at my previous lineups. This is exciting stuff. Wow. Mind blown. I'm going to pull up my lineup. It's like, man, how do you remember how well you did? I was like, I've entered in I don't know how many lineups since then. Oh, look at this. Look at this. So what was last week? The 27th?
Does it say date here anywhere? All entries?
It must have been the 27th.
Something.
Yeah, I didn't do so well.
Oh, shoot.
$10. $72.8 points.
No.
Looks like I overinvested in... McDavid did all right.
Yeah.
But Stamkos, I guess. Oh, man, look at this lineup. Oh, this is garbage. This is a garbage lineup, folks. Yanni Gourde, 1.6. Steven Stamkos, 3.2. Logan Couture, 1.6. Yeah, you know what? I'm done embarrassing myself on the internet. I think I spoke for myself last week. And at least this week, you know not to take my advice and Bettor Advice.
My Dirty Fantasy. Don't forget, My Dirty Fantasy. Got to get the branding in there.
These near beers, I tell you.
Oh my gosh, this non-alcoholic is right in my brain now. If we click around this week, we can talk about this week and go from there. I like to take a combination of throw my approach, and the thing I found the most helpful is in talking to you, actually. So, like, I will make alterations. So if you go back and listen to the podcast, sometimes I'll make, like, alterations live on air. Just because if we're talking, I'm like, hell, that's a hell of a great player. I'll throw him in my lineup. And I've been successful that way. And that's almost like maybe a good advice if you have a buddy or something like that and you want to do FanDuel. Find someone that you're kind of compatible with, that you agree with, and, like, bounce ideas off them, right? Because it's working for me. I mean, my bankroll, you can't really see it. It's not growing. It's staying very neutral. I'm winning and losing at a pretty equal rate, but it's definitely a little bit more fun if you can chat about it. So
I'm the exact same way, and like there was a time in my life where, well, a time in our life, we lived together. We were always talking about sports, and like that really helped me grow as a bettor. And this was fucking Jesus, man, over a decade ago. How have you not strangled me by now? But anyways, and then Internet. I found that when I kind of ventured out on.
I can't reach it. See, my hands just disappear on the screen.
Kind of looks like you're just tugging me off now. But I found that when I went out, ventured on my own, like I found this lull where I was like, man, like, and like I would literally go into, I remember it so vividly. I would go into like a Starbucks in the morning, and I'd pretend to have a conversation with myself. I'd write stuff down. I'm like, okay. And this is how Mick would respond, or this is how somebody else would respond. I'm like, okay, well, fine. Like, and you kind of talk yourself through those processes, but those internal conversations, if they work for you, great. But if you need somebody, go find somebody, because Mick's fucking right, man. Like, if you need like a wingman to talk about things, it helps you just process things so much differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not helping me on this fucking segment, but whatever. It's working for you, so that's good.
Yep. Thank you. Good times. For this week, for my lineup, I went with the free space. I took the Rangers goalie in nets with Igor Shesterkin, 7,500. I was like, it's probably an easy win, right? That's probably an easy place to start. I liked... I'm a fan of Shea Weber. $4,900. I don't mind me a Shea Weber. Well, with Ryan Pulock of the New York Islanders at $4,300. And I had a lot of money to spend up front. So I got me a Drake Batherson. He's playing a pretty good quality of hockey too. Like, he's probably worth it at $4,800. Tyler Johnson at $3,800. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of cheap people. Oh, and sorry, Yanni Gourde. I think he's kind of like a fan favorite of the podcast at this point. The Yanni Gourde at $4,700, which then left me with all the high-priced guys. So I got me an Anze Kopitar, a Nathan McKinnon, and a Mikko Rantanen as my other utility player to kind of go along with my plugs. And I'm really hoping that they bring me to the promised land. I got a winning goalie. I got 3 guys that are going to outscore everyone else. And that's how I'm winning this week.
I like that strategy. Yanni Gourde obviously let me down. I just relived that moment. It's still a little fresh for me, so I hope he serves you better than he serves me. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but you took... sounds like you loaded up on some Colorado Avalanche players, and I think that's going to be hugely valuable. They are on the first night of a back-to-back, so that is tonight they are playing St. Louis. Tomorrow they are playing St. Louis. But... the Blues have went with Jordan Binnington tonight. Second night of a back-to-back, it's going to get hairy. And I respect the shit out of that Colorado stack. I think it's going to serve you well. I kind of took a shotgun approach. I've noticed, like, when I go through and I kind of check things the next day, there just seems to be this kind of madness to how successful everybody is. And that is sometimes there's, like, people from just, like, people from the best player from each team basically culminates in the perfect lineup, if you will. So I'm trying to emulate that a little bit with what I got here. So starting at the top, I went with Anze Kopitar too. Again, similar position. There's first night of a back-to-back. Second night tomorrow, obviously home team, I would say, is favored in that scenario. LA's been playing really good hockey. They're minus 130 favorites tonight, but that doesn't do them justice. Like, I have a feeling that they're just going to run roughshod on the Sharks and carry that over till tomorrow. So joining him, and this is kind of where Philadelphia is a good offensive team, and I get that they're playing the Islanders tomorrow, and the Islanders have obviously some of the most inspired defensive metrics, especially on home ice. But when Philadelphia has this tendency to just go off, and I'm kind of riding that, maybe this is the time when they go off. So I took Kevin Hayes up front. Artemi Panarin. The Rangers have been absolutely lighting the league on fire since Artemi Panarin came back. I got it up here. He's got 5 points over his last 2 games and something like 15 points since he came back. So, I'm riding that, especially against the shitty Sabres. I think Panarin has a great game. Next to him on the wing, Mark Stone. Mark Stone playing Minnesota Wild tomorrow night. You can't go bad with Mark Stone. I feel like every time I leave him off my lineup, I regret it. So I included him this time. I paired Shane Gostisbehere with Kevin Hayes, thinking, maybe the waivers kicks his ass into gear. Marco Scandella is a cheap, I don't want to say, yeah, he is cheap. $3,600 salary. You get kind of all or nothing with him. I'm hoping tomorrow's an all game. Obviously, it's a second night of back-to-back. Colorado's going to build a big lead, but I think Marco Scandella will be, one of those primary assist type players tomorrow. Rolled the dice here a little bit with Tyler Toffoli. Not back yet, not confirmed in the lineup, but I like Montreal's chances against Ottawa tomorrow. He is paired with Pavel Buchnevich in the utility spot. Again, Pavel Buchnevich gets that power play time. He tends to go off playing power play minutes too. I just like this guy's ceiling. And lastly, like we chatted about, Montreal's playing great defensive hockey. So my FanDuel lineup wouldn't be complete without including Carey Price in it.
Sweet. Nice. I like it. Suck it, Senators. As I was playing around, if you're looking on the screen, maybe I was distracting you. Hopefully you're listening to Grant. But I did put in a Panarin, and I was able to upgrade Yanni Gourde to James Van Riemsdyk. I don't know if I like the Mikko Rantanen to Panarin. That might be more lateral than I'm thinking. But I do think the JVR from the Yanni Gourde is probably a higher play, right? He's got a better chance. So it's something to think about. And again, there's a tip I just picked up talking to Grant about it. This guy last week, this M. Nikas from Carolina, got 52.2 points last week. I saw him in a bunch of winning duels. I don't know why the hell you would ever pick up this unknown forward Nikas. What do you think Nikas is?
He's been on a tear. I looked at that. I was looking at Carolina scoring earlier this week.
$5,300.
Players.
Shit. I could do that instead of JVR. Interesting.
He's nearly a point per game. I don't know, man. He's definitely worth including. Gets a ton of ice time, 17 minutes, power play time, power play goals. So he's got 10 power play points. He looks to be a power play specialist, I would say.
Cool. Well, they're playing Dallas tomorrow. Something to think about.
Is it in Carolina or is it in...
It's in, it's Dallas at Carolina, so...
You know what? All right, I'm going to make an adjustment here.
Okay. Cool, yo. And then that is My Dirty Fantasy. That leaves us with Bettor Advice, the segment that's sweeping the nation. The game was, you start with, you get $100 every week, you got to bet it however you see fit. Next week you're coming back, so you basically have to stay up to date. You need to have that kind of some type of profit going into each week to stay in the red, to stay in the black. Sometimes you stay in the red, like Mick, who's now, oh god, what am I, minus $500, minus $600? Just keep losing. Stupid Oilers. They won on the wrong night, so it's too bad.
That stung. And they blew that third period lead. Oh man.
Oh,
after
the overtime goal, I went, fuck. My wife's sitting there, and she's like, wait, don't you like the Leafs? And I was like, it's a long story. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It was hell of a goal, too. It went off 2 Oilers and basically got kicked into the net.
Yeah.
I was feeling that. And especially Philadelphia. Philadelphia came back in the third period for you, too.
Yeah, that one I actually had on my myself, so I'm applauding myself. Yay, I listened. I hit that ticket. I didn't take the Oilers in real life. So, and I even said it in the podcast. I'm like, I kind of feel like the Flyers are winning tomorrow. I should just bet them, walk home with a profit, just decrease the deficit. But, emotional hedge, I'm going to put some money on the Oilers. And it bit me, so that's a shame. That's a shame. Grant, on the other hand, if we want to talk about losers, we're not talking about Grant. Because I think, Grant, did you run the table last week?
Boy, did I. I gotta tell you this story that it just, like, it chaps my ass. So, I made money online, obviously, hypothetical money on our podcast here. I went to bet a Sports Select ticket, and I go up the hill. There's 7-Eleven up the hill every day, probably sometimes even more than once a day. This one lady is the absolute best. Like, she knows that when I come in, I'm coming in at, like, 4:58, and she will actually tell me as the clock ticks down, like, Grant, you have less than a minute. I'm like, okay. And she will make customers wait at the till while she collects my Sports Select ticket, puts it through, and then I go to the back of the lineup. Like, absolute gem. There's this other lady, though, who does the exact opposite. And last Saturday, I went to get in, I can't remember, I think it was a 3 o'clock game, something like that, 2 or 3 o'clock, where Vegas was playing. And I went to get my ticket in. She starts dicking around. She's throwing taquitos out. She's counting cigarettes. I'm like, can we get this in? I was like, I just need to get this in before 2 or 3 o'clock, whatever time it was. She's like, I just have to finish counting these packs of cigarettes. Lo and behold, guess who fucking misses out on their $400 Sports Select ticket because Mrs. Counting Cigarettes couldn't get my fucking piece of paper through the machine in time. So I was a little, PO'd. And, I was so angry about it that the next day she was working again. And I went in, I got to the window, I saw that she was working. I was like, nope. I walked an extra 2 blocks to another gas station. I was like, I can't even look at you right now. But anyways, it was a good podcast episode. 4 for 4, 2 overtimes, one over and one side, I think it was.
Yeah, no, it was good. I was re-listening the next morning or something like that, and I was like, wait, did Grant just go perfect? As I'm like kind of licking my wounds, and I was like, good for you. So I was like, there you go, listen to that guy. He's got it.
It was fun, and that's what I was we mentioned it on the podcast too. It's like it's such a grind, and you have to grind, and you keep your head just barely above water or close enough to water where it can break out and take a breath every once in a while, just like that, and build your lead. So I'm not expecting a perfect day tomorrow, but plus money would be good. So I got a few picks lined up. Who are you looking at?
I kind of feel like at this point I have 2 options. I can kind of chip away at my deficit and try and get back into respectable numbers kind of by the end of the season, or just swing for the fences at this point. So I'm going to swing for the fences. Hopefully I hit on one of these, and then I can at least kind of have some momentum going, and then kind of get back to my strategy that was working earlier in the season. Do a couple parlays. I'm going to do a New York special. That's what I'm calling this one. So I've got the Rangers -1.5 at +105. And I've got the Islanders at -1.5 at +145. $50. And the payout on that bad boy, it was something like 4-1, which gives me $201.13. So, come on, New York. I need some easy wins, maybe some empty net goals. Secure that bad boy. And then, because I'm not listening to Grant whatsoever, I'm going to take the Senators +1.5. I think Montreal is going to falter here. I think COVID is going to get them at -125. I've got the Florida Panthers -1.5 goals at +160. And Tampa Bay Lightning, they're playing Detroit. Detroit, in my opinion, sucks, but they'll probably win for some reason at -1.5 at +145. Which gives me +691 odds. So $50 on that gives me a payout of $345.38. So if I hit on both of those, I think I'm out of the hole. I think I'm even. So a couple home run swings. I don't know. I'm throwing poop at the wall at this point. So,
You know, I respect the strategy though. I feel like that's a tendency I always have too. Is like when you start to get down, it's like how do I get back up? And the slow approach is painful and like feels like this impossible climb. So I really hope that you hit these. I think I copied something down right because it doesn't. You had Ottawa plus 1.5, Tampa Bay minus 1.5. Was there another pick in there?
Florida minus 1.5. Yeah, I think they're going to beat the pesky Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets got me at some night too. They were on a bit of a losing streak, and they were playing. I forget what happened. I fluctuated. I fluctuated last week, and then finally I ended up hitting some type of weird like basketball. No, it's not called teaser. Like late on Sunday night to finally kind of like even out my like bets for the weekend. It was a rough one. Yeah, just.
I gotta like the New York special though, because I thought, like when you said New York special, I just imagined getting tugged off behind a dumpster and then grabbing a slice of pizza after.
Best $3 you'll ever spend.
I think I like my version better, but as I mentioned, I have 3 picks that I'm looking at. Saturday wouldn't be Saturday without an overtime bet, so I'm leading off with that. Thankfully, I finally got off the schneid last week. Who was it? It was the Dallas-Florida game. Was it Dallas-Florida? And then Tampa Bay as well. But this week, I'm going Nashville versus Chicago. Overtime for $300. This is an important matchup, and neither team is going to give up an inch. Playoffs are obviously there's playoff implications with these teams battling it out. I think Chicago is going to play not to lose rather than to win, and I don't think Nashville really risks too much. So, it just feels like an overtime game to me. I am going, and that one for $30. Next, I'm looking at Philadelphia plus 162 underdogs against the Islanders. I don't know why I have it in my head that I just want to get. I want a piece of the Flyers tomorrow night, so I'm taking it. I'm not fighting the urge. I know the Islanders are good, but I think for whatever reason, that little rumbling in my tummy that Philadelphia is going to win. $20 plus 162. My biggest play, $50. It's a total. Rangers versus Buffalo tomorrow. I believe it's a 5 o'clock contest. Low total, 5.5. Overs juiced to minus 124. I just think that, Buffalo's kind of had this increased effort over the last little while. They finally won a game. I think they just fall flat on their face, I think, and I kind of respect your New York special on this one, but I'm taking the over 5.5 minus 124. Panarin goes off. I'm picking it right now. Five Panarin points.
That's really funny, yeah, because I kind of was just throwing some poop at the wall with those minus 1.5s, and I got to that Rangers and and I was like, man, I really like that play. They might score 6 goals by themselves, right? The rate they're going. So, come on, Rangers. I've never liked you before, and no reason to like you, but don't fucking scowl me. God damn it.
I need you. I need you now more than ever.
Come on. Pull it together for me. So, just like I need to pull something else later. Hey, Grant, you got anything special for us?
I respect the shit out of that. I got to just cue something up because I totally blanked on where we were. I was just realizing, I was like, oh, man. So I just got to find this lovely missus on the internet here. You do your thing. Tell them about your... I don't know. You got something fun to talk about. Give me 2 seconds.
So if you're interested, there is kind of a growing sports card market right now, and if you're specifically liking hockey, just as kind of like the lesser of the 4 major sports in the USA right now, look at some of the numbers that basketball, football, baseball are doing right now. There's a really interesting just sports cards market in general, so if you're thinking of dabbling a little bit, there are some cool deals on hockey cards, right? So, I ended up with a Joe Sakic, a graded Joe Sakic rookie card this week. I bought just a lot of Brodeur, who's probably the best goalie maybe ever. He's far and ahead kind of in terms of wins, so I've got a bunch of those rookies. Gonna sit on them for a bit, try and make some money, but it's kind of a cool, interesting market, and you can get guys for cheap, right? I got a graded Peter Forsberg rookie card for a very reasonable price compared to the other major sports when you're looking at them that way. So if you guys are interested, reach out. I have a little bit of knowledge. I can point you in the right direction, give you some good kind of resources to kind of go from there. It's kind of interesting stuff. So,
and from one picturesque, no, that's not going to work. I was going picture related. I was just kind of, we're going to the Babe of the Week.
All right, Babe of the Week.
This Babe of the Week is brought to you by the letter C for Caboose. Her name, Sarah, with an H, because I don't think H's are L. Houchins. I'm probably bastardizing that name. Houchens. Sarah L. Hutchins. She has everything going right.
Whew. Whew. She drives like a truck.
Front and back.
Whew. Good for her.
She is our Babe of the Week.
Oh, Instagram. I don't know who came up with you, but thank you. That's...
Maybe we should start our own Babe of the Week channel. And by that, I mean it's just you and me posing in thirst traps for the internet so that hopefully we get added to somebody's Babe of the Week.
Well, we actually do. If anyone ever follows, we do have a Canada Puck profile. I don't know if I have the login info for it. Like, it's logged in on my phone, but I couldn't, tell you how to get to it. At one point, I was going to post, girls in jerseys showing off bits, or, hockey cards. I thought it'd be kind of fun to post and, kind of get a following that way. I just always forget, so... I thought about it at one point, though.
But I want you and me to be on the internet.
Yeah. Hey, I got a little bit of, chest showing today with this jersey, and I've had a couple drinks, so I don't know, what are you going to talk me into? Couple drinks.
Yeah.
I've drank half a beer. I have half a beer still, so... Thank you, Wisconsin Club, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was a blue Bud Light can. Maybe you're drinking... I saw blue, and I think I saw you drink Bud Light last week.
I had that, last week, and I did this. It's like Wisconsin. I was at the Liquor Depot last Sunday night, and it was 15 beers for $13, and I was like, okay. What's the worst that happens? I go blind?
Oh, I miss those cheap beer days. What was it? Clear Creek Ice. I remember. I'll never forget the day Clear Creek Ice went on sale for $4 a 6-pack. My fuck, we got some drunk that night.
Yeah, it really fucked up that mailman's truck. So you don't know where we lived. You can't prove it was us.
Statute of limitations.
That's another fun week. We got lots of baseball. We got NCAA tournament wrapping up this weekend. Looks like we got some good hockey games. Kind of everyone, except I guess the Canucks are kind of screwing up this stupid schedule. That really. Yeah.
Because what happens tomorrow night? Is there a game on deck? Because that was the Oilers Canucks was Saturday night.
So it looks postponed right now, which means we end up with, I don't know, I guess Sharks Kings kind of ends hockey. That's not very good.
This is what I mean.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the schedule. Saturday night notwithstanding, there's basically games for every waking hour between now and Sunday night, because games start tomorrow morning at 11. They start even earlier on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So if you play your cards right, you get settled into an ass groove. You could be looking at, I want to say 12 straight hours of hockey. No joke. You could fucking groove that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I was just thinking, what's going on Sunday? I literally have my Easter dinner plans revolving around the Flames Leafs game, so yay.
That's a Mick flex if I've ever seen one, so good for you.
Sweet. Cool. Well, that wraps up another fun week. Party on, Grant.
Party on, Mick. We will tune everybody in next week.